Blessed to be with you, Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Don't forget Spirit of Boise Balloon Classic going on all week at Ann Morrison Park. For more details, go to our website, KIDOTalkRadio.com. Joining us now from Austin, Texas, Doug Giles, author of Would Jesus Vote for Trump? Also, editor of ClashDaily.com. How are you?
Kevin, what's shaking?
Doug, you always get everybody fired up. So from your perspective, from your perch in Austin, Texas, how is the president doing?
I think if you're a Satanist or a communist or a socialist, he's not doing very good, and you hate him.
I think that about sums it up.
Yeah. Everybody's like, Trump's the devil, and never Trumpkins on the right. Of course, obviously, the always reflexive CNN, they loathe him with perfect hatred. And I tell my kids all the time, look, you're known by the company you keep and also by the enemies that you attract. And he's got all the proper enemies, people who hate the Constitution, people who hate cops, people who don't like the Bill of Rights, and like I said, Satanists, communists, socialists, and the list goes on and on. Madonna doesn't like him. Miley Virus doesn't like him. And most of these people aren't known for their love of our founding documents and the Judeo-Christian worldview. So I'd say Trump's glide path heretofore for the first 2 years is pretty spot on.
Speaking of which, what do you make of Taylor Swift and others that continue to take shots at him? And then, the allegations of racism and white nationalism, Doug?
Yeah, I like what Taylor said at the VMAs the other night. I think was trumped by John Travolta thinking that a transsexual person was Taylor, and he got the two confused. But I think when Taylor and the squad flaps, I love it. I think they should keep talking. Matter of fact, I think we should mic them up 24/7 and just let them keep talking smack about Trump, because every time they do, sane people who might not understand Donald or the Republican Party or conservatism or liberty, they're like, you know what? I don't want to wear a blue jacket and wear a red tie and khaki pants and be a typical Republican. But those people over there are bat crap crazy, and they turn their family bus a little to the right.
All right, Doug, let's talk about your new book, Would Jesus Vote for Trump? Why the title?
Yeah, so in 2015, I was watching, again, the Never Trumpkins on the GOP side of the aisle. They were saying that no fair-minded Christian who took his faith seriously could ever get behind a leader like Donald Trump because of his multiple marriages, him imbibing deeply into the superfluity of naughtiness, et cetera, et cetera. And I took a lot of heat because I supported Trump as an outspoken Christian. And so I was sitting there thinking, me and my co-author Brandon Bellarani, we ought to toss Trump's person and his policies through the sieve of the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and see if there is any kind of simpatico nature with the gospel and his policies, how he's governing, and also with his person. And I like the whole personal aspect of it, going back to the people saying you can't support a guy like Trump with his poor moral character. And I go, oh, you mean like King David, who committed adultery and had a guy murdered to cover up his adultery, who danced naked in front of the Ark of the Covenant? What about Abraham, who had sex with his maid, got her pregnant, lied about being married twice, and gave his wife to Pharaoh and King Abimelech? And Moses, who was a murderer, who's on the run from the law and had massive anger issues, or Samson, who dated a hooker, married a trashy chick, a Philistine, and lit 300 foxes on fire. Or what about Noah, who fell down drunk with his junk out? Those are just 5 people that I rattled off that God seemingly bypassed their penchants into transgression and still utilized them greatly as a leader. And so my whole thing with Jesus Vote for Trump is we're going to examine what he's done from a traditional value standpoint, how he's governed in the last 2 years, and then again looking at his person is who he is, or what he's done. Does that completely illegitimize him as being a leader? Absolutely not, because God only has fallen people to deal with on this side of the judgment seat.
Doug Giles joining us. DailyClash.com, of course, ClashDaily.com. Let me ask you another question, though. You have a unique insight into the young people, and you're a young person at heart, even though, Doug, you have some miles on the odometer. What's the state of reaching the kids today? And I mean, your daughter's been around for a long time. She's even old these days. Well, not figuratively, not literally.
So come again. I lost you at the end there.
Just the how to reach the young people. You know, you're not a young man, but you're a young man at heart. You're fired up, and I'm just saying that you can reach people that are much younger. We remember your daughter from the old days of blowing up Acorn and stuff, but the fight has been going on so long that she's even up in the years. I'm talking about, the 18 to 24-year-olds. How do we reach them?
I don't try to do anything but be me, man. I'm a leader. If they want to follow, then giddy up. I'm around a lot of church people, and they're like, we got to be, intersectionally sensitive. We got to have our critical race theory down. We can't offend anybody. To me, that's bull crap, man. You come in confident, love them, but at the same time, man, if I'm looking at 60 years of age, I'm not going to cater to some 18 to 25-year-old kid that's living in mommy's basement, that's hooked on his iPhone and pornography. I'm gonna give him and her commands and directives, and if they don't do it, then life will throat punch them for the next 40, maybe 50 years.
Sure.
So, yeah, again, the church stuff really drives me nuts, Kevin, because all the pastors, they sit around in little camps and talk about how do we reach the kiddos. I guarantee Moses, John the Baptist, Jesus, Paul, Ezekiel, and Jeremiah didn't do that. They heard it, thus saith the Lord, and then boom, here it is. And if you don't like it, again, the consequences are gruff.
Doug Giles joining us here. Doug, it just takes me a minute because we're just tuned into your every word here on KIDO Talk Radio. Going back to your research for the book, Would Jesus Vote for Trump? How did you discover all these things about Noah to Samson and everything else?
Yeah, by being able to read. That's what is shocking to me about the never Trumpkins who say, Jesus, and you would never stand behind somebody like Trump. It's like, guys, you look like you're literate, but are you illiterate? Like, have you ever read the Bible? It's there, Again, Samson, boom, with a hooker, Judges 16. Samson marries a Philistine. That'd be like Franklin Graham, marrying Madonna or something like that. And you look at all these weird critters that God used, and then you just ask, the little Christian evangelical never Trumpkin. It's like, would you vote for David? Because he was an adulterer. He had 7 wives. And Kevin, I started doing weed when I was 12, so I wasn't really good at math. And but I believe that 7 is 4 more than the 3 that Trump had. David cut off the foreskins of 200 Philistines just for giggles. Can you imagine how Don Lemon and CNN would portray that? I mean, it just goes on and on and on. Again, just the weird, sinful past, the eccentric, idiosyncratic wiring of some of the people that God used mightily. And then you have these people who are foisting up a standard that I guarantee that their dumb backside can't even hold to, Oh, you have to be perfect. Mitt Romney was perfect. Jimmy Carter was perfect.
Right.
And then look what he brought to the table from a governance standpoint.
Our great friend Doug Giles joining us. Would Jesus vote for Trump? ClashDaily.com. Final question. Let's go back to God and culture and faith and what is going on in the church today where we're rolling over everything and 2,000 years of Christianity is being thrown out the window to accommodate the politically correct.
Yeah, we're emasculated, and I think it's self-induced. Because again, if you look at the prophets and the apostles and the chief dragon slayer himself, Jesus Christ, these guys change culture. Nowadays the church is being changed by culture. And, Andrew Breitbart made famous the refrain, if we want to change politics, we got to change culture. because politics is downstream of culture. And I said, Andrew, that's partially right, but the culture and politics are downstream of the church. And if the church is this nutless wonder afraid to speak truth, because it might cost them their tithe and their offering, or they might get in trouble, by some special interest group, then, you can kiss culture and politics goodbye. And that's what I dig about Trump. He's got Reagan had trickle-down economics. Trump's got trickle-down testicular fortitude. And you see it reflected in Lindsey Graham and Mitch McConnell, who used to be scared of their own shadows. And now they're becoming bold and forthright, And so hopefully that kind of stuff will hit the church. Again, man, I when you say political correctness has hit the church, I don't know if you've seen what's going on in California, but there's legislation that if you talk about certain passages in the Scripture that cross the bow of the LGBTQ community, then you can be arrested, you can be fined, and you can lose your nonprofit status. And that's coming because the church, took a big frickin' 40-year nap, and like I said, self-castrated, and have lost that holy punch. I hope we get back to what the Puritans called just pure plain dealing. Doesn't mean that we have to be rude. There's plenty of stuff in the Scripture that I don't like, but we've got to be just simple UPS drivers and deliver the message that God gave us, and and be faithful to that. Everybody wants to be liked, man, and Jesus said, woe to you if all men speak well of you.
So would Jesus vote for Trump? Our great
I
friend.
doubt it. He's King of Kings and Lord of Lords. So, the point is that the title baits people in. It went to number 7 the first week in public affairs in the administration on Amazon, and we didn't even have the media machine cranking at that juncture. However, from a he's your best friend standpoint, if you take your faith seriously and if you look at how he's governed, it's pretty epic, man. He's ahead of Ronald Reagan at this juncture, according to the Heritage Foundation scorecard, by about 20 points on keeping his word and implementing, a constitutional and a Judeo-Christian worldview.
Doug, it's been too long since we've had you on. Keep up the great work, sir.
You bet, buddy. Stay rowdy, Kevin.
All right, our great friend Doug Giles joining us. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Blessed to be with you. Don't forget Glenn Beck coming up. Phone numbers 580-5436. 580-KIDO. Our time is 8:21. This just in. Facebook is tightening its rules for political advertising as of 2020. The presidential election drawing closer. So can we really trust Facebook or anybody in social media? Organizations that buy political ads will be required to post their contact information and show their FEC credentials to earn a confirmed organization label. I guess that's being like your biggest fan. You get a badge. Who knows? Advertisers have until mid-October to comply with the new law, or their ads will be cut off. So there we have it from the social media giant on Facebook. It was interesting looking at Representative Omar and everything else, what's going on with her. She was married, then not married, then married her husband again. The president has called her marriages a sham. And then that she's fallen in love with her political consultant who has a kid. She has 3 kids. And, just going off of what Doug Giles said, she purports to be a good person of faith. Well, I don't know anything about her religion, but I can't believe that is looked at with approval. And, you're marrying someone, I believe, outside her faith as well. That can't be good as well. And you're thinking, well, Kevin, what's the big deal? If you're going to say you're a person of faith, and you have Representative Omar talking about how bad we were when we went and tried to save those people in Black Hawk Down in Mogadishu, Somalia, then you have to critically look at yourself and say, well, what's going on in her mind, right? Let's get the very latest from Rachel Sutherland on the case.
Minnesota Representative Ilhan Omar, a married mother of 3, is cited as the other woman in divorce papers filed in Washington, D.C. Beth Minette, a physician, claims her husband, D.C. consultant Tim Minette, told her earlier this year he was having an affair with Omar. They separated shortly after. Records show Omar's campaign paid Minette's consulting firm, E Street Group, $230,000 for fundraising consulting, digital communications, travel expenses, and internet advertising. Omar's office has not responded to requests for comment from Fox News. In Washington, Rachel Sutherland, Fox News.
And remember, when you hear Fox News on the radio, you're listening to KIDO Talk Radio, 107.5 FM, 580 AM. Let's get you to work safely and on time. Good morning, Dave. And blessed to be with you once again. So this was a story that actually, and if you were listening yesterday, we had this young man who works for the higher-ups here. He is the digital managing editor of our newsletter. What that means is he comes in and determines whether or not the content is appropriate to be disseminated, kind of like Pravda did in the old Soviet Union. So we call him the Tiger because he's a very ferocious young man. So yesterday we had the Tiger joined us because he's learning from Jeff the Suit how to monitor this broadcast to make sure the information is, as they call it, not fake news. We call it the real news. Well, anyway, the Tiger was telling me about a story last week that has mysteriously vanished from the New York Times, the New York Post, from everything else. And this is a story involving the city of Caldwell. And even the Idaho Statesman is issued a correction because they got the story wrong. Apparently, this happened last week. You had a story that was blasted everywhere because when it comes to Idaho, when it comes to Canyon County, when it comes to Caldwell, people believe the negative because everybody's a racist in America today. So I'm looking at this story, and it involves the Community Council of Idaho. And apparently they plan to remove and conceal signage on buses it uses to transport local children of the farm workers and Head Start participants. A Caldwell bus driver reported a threatening incident with other motorists that made her feel unsafe as she was transporting children younger than 5. Now, you have people railing against, I guess, the city of Caldwell, or it happened in Caldwell. I don't know. It was front page story because why, my friends? It fits the narrative that we're all intolerant. You have Sunny Alvarez, spokeswoman for the Community Council of Idaho, saying it's really heartbreaking because they're children. Now, much to the council's credit, they run 10 Head Start centers for children of migrant workers across the state, saying they don't understand what hate is. So we'll get to this allegation again that made national news that, again, according to the Tiger, has been pulled. We have this statement from the Idaho Statesman. And this is why I love people that do their job correctly, because most of the people in journalism have agendas. They're self-promoting. And no one in the Treasure Valley really follows Twitter except the media self-important slappies. And that's true. And I'm sorry if that comes across as pithy or offensive, but it is true. They deem themselves the protectors when, in fact, all they're doing is promoting their own progressive agenda. Case in point, the Idaho Statesman. Due to incorrect information provided to the Statesman, well, it sounds to me like the Idaho Statesman did not check their facts. And by the way, does anybody run the Statesman anymore? They go through publishers like every couple of days, it seems. Right? You remember when you used to have like an editor or somebody who was like part of the community. Now they ship someone in from Kansas City or Yakima, and it's like the TV anchors and anchorettes. I love the community, and then they're gone after 2 years. So back to the Statesman, which not only should print a correction, but an apology to the people of Caldwell for this reprehensible story. Due to incorrect information provided to the Statesman, this story has been corrected to reflect that one threatening incident in Caldwell was reported more than once to the Community Council of Idaho staff rather than reports of multiple incidents. That's a big factual, the signs have already been purchased and are now being added to the buses. Whatever. But to go on without checking multiple sources, without making sure your facts are correct, and then it was picked up by the bottom-feeding, cesspool-ridden libs who wanted to take down Idaho, take down Caldwell. Look, nobody should threaten anybody. The libs shouldn't threaten God-fearing conservatives that just want to speak the truth, but they do. And if there was one incident, that's one incident too many. But it seems to me that all of a sudden we're getting a rather confusing thing. And instead of holding off, well, we've got to stick it to Caldwell. We've got to stick it to Canyon County. We've got to stick it to Idaho. And these folks can't even spell Idaho. You know, it's funny. The Statesman picks its winners and losers. Sadly, the Statesman is a loser now. And the other one, the other paper, they hired the libs. But because we have talk radio, we have our own websites, we don't need them anymore to validate what we have. You have your own. You are a media organization. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, about how welcoming Idaho is and this false story that has been shamefully rewritten. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Maggie. And we go to Jeff Monasso, Fox News Radio. Good morning, Jeff.
Hey, good morning, Kevin.
A very unusual story involving a female football player in the NFL.
Yeah, it's a great story. U.S. women's national soccer team star Carly Lloyd says that she's received 2 offers from 2 NFL teams after drilling that impressive 55-yard kick at Philadelphia Eagles training camp last week. The 2-time World Cup champion could get a chance to kick in a preseason game tomorrow. No word on which team. All 32 NFL teams play their final preseason game this week, and some, including the Chicago Bears, are in desperate need for what we saw on that viral video, desperate need for a kicker. U.S. women's soccer has a game tomorrow against Portugal. So, yeah, I don't. If I was a betting man, I'd say she wouldn't. She's not going to do it. She did confirm on ABC News that she is considering it, and confirms what her coach James Lannis told Fox Sports, that she's serious, but wants to wait until next year, train in the off season, get herself ready for it, so that she doesn't just do it just for the sake of doing it. But look, I mean, she's 37 years old, not necessarily too old for a kicker in the NFL. And she's got nothing left to prove in soccer. 2-time champion. She's done it all in terms of the soccer world. So, going to be interesting to see how this plays out.
Is it too soon for any type of reaction?
Well, if you look at social media, I mean, people are reacting. Tons and tons of people are reacting. They're wishing her luck. They think it's a great. I think it's a great story. It's a great story in the making. Some though aren't buying it. One guy tweeting that if she can do it, good on her, but big difference in kicking on a warm, sunny afternoon in practice and then trying to kick that same 55-yarder under pressure in 5-degree weather with 300-pound dudes running at her. And by the way, that video we saw was a great kick, but she did it in 5 steps. Normally, NFL kickers do it about 2 steps. So she's going to have to shorten up her game, her approach, or she could face getting blocked and potentially hurt. Then the story might be, politics always plays out. Yeah, the story might be, that these 300-pound dudes, hurt a girl, and but she's tough. She's as tough as they come, and if it plays out, it would be an incredible story. And so we'll see. No woman has ever kicked in the NFL. They've done it in college, but as you know, the NFL is constantly stuck in reinvention mode, and I think that they're seriously eyeing this as a possibility.
Well, it is certainly buzzworthy today. It's getting everybody talking, and that video is very impressive of her kicking that field goal.
Yeah, she kicks better than some guys I know, for sure.
Thank you, Jeff Monasso. You have a great day.
You bet. Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you. Mark in Eagle joins us now. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Hey, Mark.
Hey, good morning, Kevin. Hey, I'm glad you're bringing up the good old left-wing rag sheet Idaho Statesman. It's a shame. I moved here in 95. got that every year for the past 20, probably 21 years, and I get so disgusted with their left-wing propaganda. Almost every article is a Washington Post, New York Times derived from. And I want to bring up something here about something that they carry in their Sunday paper. And I wonder how they feel about this. This was on Breitbart yesterday. You can find the article today. Miami Herald columnist echoes Farrakhan's anti-Semitism smears Jewish conservatives as termites. That's the good old Leonard, the left-wing Pitts Jr., and they carry his propaganda every Sunday in their paper in the opinion section. So I wonder how the good old Idaho statesman feels about that. They feel it's normal, it's right to carry an anti-Semite as an opinion maker out there, just to fill up the rest of the rag sheet that they throw out there for the public. They have gotten so desperate out there, Kevin. When I dropped them, I was getting calls constantly to sign back up for the Statesman at practically nothing. I'm thinking, how would you have somebody deliver this to my doorstep every day for about $7-8 a week, or it comes out to about $20-something a month? And I'm thinking, no, I didn't even want it. You could give it to me, I said. And I said I would not want that paper because it's so left-wing. When you can finally change your propaganda sheet and have more straight stuff from both sides of the line like you used to when I moved here, I might look at your paper again. But until then, I said I don't want to ever see it again. So,
well, I don't know why anybody would buy a newspaper or advertise in a newspaper, because you're paying $1 for essentially national stories that you can get off the web, and then ads, and then you have the advertisers buying something that people have to buy to get. And look, to be truthful, the Idaho Press, they hired Betsy Russell. I'm not supporting Betsy Russell.
Well, I understand, though, that the printing system a number of years back, actually the Press Tribune over there is one that actually prints up the papers for them, because they had issues with their printing system over there off of their main headquarters, or off of Curtis or whatever. But, it's a shame that they have become so politicized and so left-wing that in supposedly the reddest of the red states, we got to see that garbage out there. And I guess we don't have to see it, because I won't look at it.
Well, that's why their subscriptions are dropping and people are leaving. And like I said, it's...
Well, you know why they're giving it away? I found out through some of the guys that when you go into Albertsons Market here in Eagle, they'll have a stand out there sometimes. And I found out that basically it's because Albertsons and Macy's and Lowe's and Home Depot, it's their ads that pretty much are keeping them afloat for the most part. And to get those ads and advertisements out to the populace, that's why they're offering that paper at basically nothing. And it's a shame, because look what's happened to their journalism.
Well, and then they try and scam you with, hey, we're going to cut your subscription rate to $15 a month. I got to tell you,
yep,
I don't want to spend $15 a month on that stuff. Now, if they represented the people, maybe, but all they want to do is take people like you down, like me down, and everybody else.
Thanks, Kevin. You have a good day, sir.
Thank you, Mark. Joining us now, Tea Party Bob, GemStatePatriot.com, a man who has a larger circulation than both papers combined. Well, maybe one day. Good morning.
Well, Mr. Miller, I want to thank you again for your show. It sounded like Liberal Steve is getting ready for the balloon festival, as he was full of hot air this morning and drifting aimlessly through his diatribe. Thanks for your comments about the Statesmen, as they have been the purveyors of misinformation for so many years that I can't understand how they stay in business. I'd love to see them go out of business, and have not read this rag sheet probably for a couple of years now. In many ways, they remind me of CNN. The less people that read the paper, the more they like it. So.
Well, and here's the other one. Those people, they can dish it out, but they sure can't take it.
Oh, absolutely not. They're almost like the politicians. They can sit there and give you a hard time about everything, but they're not going to do anything to help you. I prefer to get my news from Kevin Miller's show and from the Internet. I think it's a much more valuable way of finding out what's really going on in the world. I wanted to make a quick comment about the grocery tax and the taxes in general, since you mentioned it again this morning. What do you think about holding those who have said that they would repeal the grocery tax in the next legislative session, hold their feet to the fire and campaign to get them out of office in 2020? in the election. You know, these political comedians have been in office for way too long. You know, you look at some of them like Mike Moyle, 11 terms. Brad Little has been in office since 2001. Isn't it time they stop calling themselves public servants and stop sucking off the government teeth?
Well, you know, Mike Moyle listens to this program.
I know he does.
So what do you want to say? Well, what do you want to say to him directly? You're saying he's got to go?
I'm saying pass the repeal of the grocery tax or get out of office. If you can't tell the truth and you can't get done what you say you're going to do, then you should not be in the legislature. Let's find somebody else who can actually do the job. And I'm saying the same thing to Little. These guys talk a good game, but they never come through in the end. They leave us all
they
hanging.
come through with the gas tax hike is what they come through with.
Yes, they did. And they did that at midnight. They didn't want anybody knowing about it until the next day.
And hey, where were all the vaunted members of the Idaho Press Club that we are going to cover the legislature and we're self-important? Where were they when the gas tax was repealed? Well, they didn't have a choice. Oh, really?
They were all sleeping, Kevin, and
they were all complaining about how they actually had to work.
Well, sure. I mean, they allow a gas tax to go through. That's one of the most regressive taxes you could possibly put on those who are in the lower income bracket. It's as bad as the grocery tax. These guys don't care about the people. And the same thing goes to the local politicians. You wait for another 5 years, you're going to see taxes go so high in the urban areas of Idaho that people are going to have to move. I'm waiting for a deluge of people coming up here to New Meadows. It's going to happen. They won't be able to do it anymore. You can't pay these kinds of taxes. They never reduce them. They always expand them. When's the last time any municipality or even a state actually lowered taxes for the public? Do you remember?
No.
Because they never have.
Here's another one that gets me, is why in the world, with all the money coming in, our revenue's down? They pulled the same thing last July.
No, revenues aren't down. The expenses have expanded. They've allowed them to expand every year I have lived here for the past 26 years. They are becoming just like the clowns I left in New Jersey, who have become so liberal now, you can't even drive through the state because it smells so bad. I don't know. I don't know where you guys are going to go down there or what you're going to do, but if you don't change it soon, I'm going to have a lot of company up here, I think.
Some of us don't run. Some of us stay and fight.
Yeah, but you know what happens? You usually wind up getting killed if you don't have any more ammunition.
On that positive outlook, I appreciate you listening and your participation, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. I hope you have a wonderful day today.
All right. You too. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. You're listening to Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. And joining us now, the original Safer Money specialist, Ronnie G. Ron Grant joins us. Ron, good morning.
Good morning, guys. How are we doing today?
Pretty good. You know, we've got a big deal coming up this Saturday from 2 to 3. We're going to give away some. Well, what are we giving away?
Well, I got a pair of tickets to a Meridian Speedway for September 7th. So we're going to pick one of the callers because we're always live. They call in. We'll see who gets these tickets. And then we want you to tune in and get a pencil and a piece of paper because we're going to talk to you about how to retire like a millionaire without having $1 million. So that's important. And the tickets are too. So make sure you tune in to Kevin and I on this Saturday.
Saturday, 2 to 3. We always want to check that out. Speaking of which, Ron, how can people keep their money safe? That seems like an impossible mission these days.
Well, market's volatile. That's true. But, my clients and I, we participate in some of the upside of Wall Street, but never the downside. And the nice thing about it is we can get a reasonable range of return. We can also, and this is the most important thing, we can also get a guaranteed lifetime income that we can't outlive. And Wall Street can't say that for you. And we're going to stop you paying those pesky fees that you're paying to your financial planner, your stockbroker, your 401k company. Remember, when you pay those fees, ladies and gentlemen, it eats up your returns.
Well, we don't want that. Speaking of which, Another volatile ride this week when you're looking at the markets.
Yeah, it's going to be volatile for a while. We don't know what's happening with the China situation. You know, Korea's teeter-tottering back and forth, and that all affects our dollars here in America. And, you know, if you're over 50, you should stop chasing the returns out of the market. Let's worry about getting you a guaranteed lifetime income, as I've done with my clients and myself.
And, Ron, if people want to get a hold of you, I know you're standing by on the phone or your website. What can we do?
Website is safermoneyspecialist.com, and you can always call me at 208-660-1372. Unless I'm teaching a workshop or on the radio or with clients, except for Sunday, I answer my phone.
No, we can't wait to hear you this Saturday, 2 to 3, and hopefully give away some tickets.
We'll give those tickets away for sure. A pair of tickets to the Meridian Speedway, so make sure you tune in on Saturday. You could be a winner.
2 to 3, Ron, thank you.
All right, you have a good day.
Our great friend Ron Grant joining us. Kevin Miller in the morning. Hey, you're going to love this one. Well, you're going to hang on for a second. Actually, people are calling the president racist because he wants to blow up hurricanes with the nukes. We'll give you the details, but first, I know it's a convoluted story, but it's a convoluted show. Traffic and weather together, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Dave. And Kevin Miller in the morning here, KIDO Talk Radio. So there was a panel discussion on CNN about the president using nuclear weapons to destroy hurricanes and the snarky comments designed to embarrass the president. Again, another example of the journalism class where they just, again, you know, the Mr. Know-It-All. So it got crazy when you have April Ryan. Who's April Ryan? I don't know. She's covers the White House. She's been there for years, and she's one that a lot of people say should be respected. So she, and a vocal critic of the president, here's what she had to say.
No, we're calling him that. Call him something else. We're tongue-in-cheek.
Yeah, they don't like it when they call him the leader of the free world. He's the leader of the free world.
This, but this is the president of the United States saying something about that. And he brought in Africa as Angela, as we were talking during break, he's called Africa a shithole nation. It's actually a country, some of the countries. Yeah. Africa.
There you have it. There you have it indeed. And by the way, that aired on CNN. We apologize for that. That is not acceptable. Not acceptable indeed, is it? When you're taking a look at that. April Ryan saying those things. Folks, when you take a look at what's going on in the world today, you can't even talk about blowing up a nuke, can you? 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Kevin Miller in the morning here on KIDO Talk Radio. I go back to this, though. They're just so angry, right? They're just so angry. That's number one. Number two, going back to this issue involving the situation in Caldwell, where you have the fallout concerning El Paso, Texas. Look, we understand that the sensitivities are high, but to falsely report that something happened, to falsely report that there are multiple incidents. One incident is one too many, whether they're children 5, 15, or 50. But you had a Caldwell bus driver reported a threatening incident with other motorists that made her feel unsafe as she was transporting children younger than 5. I get that. But then you had the media going crazy and, essentially saying there were multiple incidents. Like this goes on all the time. Now, maybe it does, and maybe it's naive to think that it doesn't. But on the other hand, I got to tell you, folks, that at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, there is a need for truth. There is a need for justice. And when you make mistakes, you got to get your facts straight. You've got to make sure that you yourself have taken care of that, right? Let's hope that the journalists get it right next time. There are a lot of people that do a lot of things, and yeah, emotions are heightened But that's where prayer, common sense, perseverance, and love of country make a big difference. Right? Love of country. And you can't love your country if all you're hearing about the United States of America is how negative it is and how bad it was from the very inception, right? Think about that. Anyway, we hope that you have a blessed day. Don't go anywhere. Glenn Beck is next. Conservative, family-friendly talk coming up. Dave Ramsey, Sean Hannity, Lars Larson. Have a great day. God bless everyone. Keep the faith.